Hey there, folks, and welcome back to the Overflow. My name is Micah Curtis.
And I'm Alex Baldwin, also known as the Hatman.
And we're going to try to not be too grumpy today, because we both have reasons to be grumpy. We'll not get into that. Let's just go ahead and get into it. Hatman is grumpy to the point where he couldn't even choose what he wanted to start with topic-wise today.
You know that means I'm a real grump.
Yes. So we're going to start off with politics, specifically a Twitter question that we have here. From the Duke of Tumwater, he said, why do so many pro-choice people resort to fatalism to argue for their position? And I will say this before we get into this, like I was like 100% asshole mode. I had to buy pizza to make myself feel better. And not like keto pizza, like I make like legit bread pizza. In which case, after I eat it, I'm probably going to slip into a food coma. And then hopefully dream of beautiful women with wonderful hips and short hair. But so let's talk about this one, because I find it interesting. Now, Duke of Tumwater, feel free to correct us on this. But what I am assuming you mean by fatalism is they argue that there is a preset way that child's life is going to go if they were to not be aborted. That's what I would assume. In which case, Hatman, I want to know your thoughts on this one, because I still want to kind of form mine. Why do you think it is that we see that sort of fatalistic argument from, especially I think from feminists when it comes to abortion?
Honestly, I'm not sure. Like I think the fatalist argument comes more from like the idea that, well, if we don't permit abortions, then women are just going to die, or their children are going to be born of like unwanted and become evil as a result. That sort of thing.
Wait a minute,
because there's also.
Wait a minute. So you're saying? Oh
no! Here we go.
Millions will die.
Yes. What I'm saying is, without abortion, we will have Neo baby Hitler.
Oddly enough, that sort of fatalistic argument about Kavanaugh and abortion is where millions will die came from, for those who don't know.
But yeah, that's mostly where I see it coming from. But like, I also sort of see it coming from the other side too. With well, what if the baby that you aborted was the doctor that found the cure to cancer? Some things like that. But that's also more of a what if than anything. All of it's just what ifs.
Yeah, neither's really a good argument.
Yeah, I think it's just more an argument from emotion than anything else. It's not so much logic, but an appeal to emotion. I think that's why it's just so prevalent.
I would agree with that. I think that oftentimes we see those arguments from people who just tend to have a negative outlook on the world, and seem to see it as worse than it is. I'm a post Roe v. Wade adoption, meaning that it's pretty obvious what my stance is on abortion, i.e. this being my middle finger. Not a fan. I know that there are people out there that wish I had my brain sucked out through a tube and left in a trash can 32 years ago, but you ain't getting rid of me that easy. So, but regardless, I think that it comes from that idea that there, fatalism as it is defined is this idea that everything is preset in stone. And there is no such thing. I think that fatalism, predeterminism, what would be the biological determinism? Those sorts of ideas are nonsense. Ultimately, life is too complicated and too much just insane in general for any one path to really be set, except for the fact that it will inevitably end. And the problem that I have with the fatalistic argument is, of course, yeah, like Hatman said, it's an appeal to emotion. But also, there's nothing to really back up the idea that if the child is brought brought to term and is, let's say, adopted, that things are going to be bad. There's no reason to think that at all. Most children who are adopted, they are considerably happier than what they would have if they had stayed with their original families, in these sort of crisis scenarios. Now, we're not even getting into the law here. We're just talking about the validity of the arguments. I personally, think that the best way to argue it is on rights, on right to life, and then, and so on and so forth, because that is really where we have to get into things, is on the philosophical level of what is life, and on top of that, what are we stating about life if we think that it should be so easily snuffed out to prevent some sort of a life complication for a different life. I do believe that abortion is killing, for those wondering. And I think that an abortion literally is choosing one life over another. And that's why it frightens me that I see so many people who demand abortion on demand, which to me comes across as the attempt to live a life with no consequences, which is never going to happen. And it sets a terrible precedent for our society. It's one of the few things you will see me not argue from like Lockean conservatism on, or him, but more like Burke's way of thinking of like a social order. So anyway, that's my thoughts on it. So I thought hopefully that answers the question for you, Duke. If not, let us know, and we can always revisit the topic. So let's continue on politics. Brian Gilmartin wanted to know, is it fair to say that politics has become the new religion with how pervasive it's become in our daily lives? Yes. And that's what's frightening me, is that it almost seems like right and left are becoming religious beliefs, not really political ideas that can be debated.
Well, yeah, they've just become sort of moral high grounds, and that's what happens when you moralize your political stances.
Yeah,
it basically becomes your religion,
which is frightening to me, because I feel like the less that Christianity has been an influence on the lives of people, or even just Judeo-Christian values in general, which would mean Christians and Jews, but and on the next podcast we're gonna have some Jew talk, because there's some pretty screwed up stuff that happened this week. And God, it's only Tuesday that we're recording this. But anyway, we, as a nation, the further we get away from that, we start to notice that these belief systems tend to, or that lack of, Christian influence tends to, give, for the right wing anyway, give a slant to it that is a little bit too barbaric for my taste. Mm-hmm. And thus you get groups like Patriot Prayer and the Proud Boys, which, to my recollection, I know Gavin McGinnis is not a believer, and I don't know if the people in Patriot Prayer are either. And that's the thing, is that without... Dietrich Bonhoeffer once said that if Christianity were to ever fade from this world, the Western civilization as we know it would crumble under its own weight. And it's true. And we're starting to see pieces of that. It's not so much the government that I worry about, it's the culture. And we are painfully ignorant to what getting away from those values is doing to us. And we're too focused on the right here, right now. We're too focused on instant gratification and pwning the other side or owning the libs or what have you. And we're not thinking about the examples we're leading to other people who are in the middle and to people who want to know more. I agree, and I'm scared of it. I don't want that for this country.
No, it's like what we were just talking about. It's basically just appeals to emotion instead of logic. I mean, that's 2016 especially has sort of turned politics on its head, to where you are, if you're not appealing to emotion, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
There are no facts. I mean, what was it? We live in a post-truth era.
Yeah.
That's insanity.
And we'll probably get some pushback on those ideas, so I would ask you this. For those of you who say, well, what's the counter to Antifa or whatever? How many of you have emailed or called your senator's office and pressured them to represent you in the Senate and pass a law or do something, or protest just even the fact that Antifa is not declared a terrorist organization or something along those lines, and get your voice out there in that manner? Why is the conclusion punch the other guy in the face? We have police for a reason, and if you want the law to be enforced properly, you have to get up and do it. We are not at a point where you need to take matters into your own hands, because then that's just how gangs get started, and that's never going to answer anything. And that's the interesting thing about this, is I don't think that we're in a position where our republic is not working. I think that we're in a position where some people just are unwilling to do the right thing and use it. And I think that bit shows a colossal failing in our knowledge of what's going on and our ability to be adults. All right, next question. Why is the default view of government monarchy? I think that a lot of people simply desire to be led.
Mm-hmm.
And that just kind of seems to be where they go to. It's everybody wants a leader, and when you'll notice that whenever you have a group of people, and you ask one of them to lead in something, there's going to be this awkward looking around moment of, well, I don't want to do it. And to be a leader, you kind of have to have a little bit of an ego, which is unfortunate. Yeah, it just seems to be that a lot of people just don't want to take responsibility. They would rather it rest on the shoulders of someone else so they can just handle their day-to-day. And I think just kind of the extreme conclusion of that logically is monarchy. To have one guy who rules everything. You have any other thoughts on that, Hatman?
I don't know if I would really call that like a default, though, because with monarchy you also have the idea of a ruling family, not specifically a ruling class, but just a ruling family. And I don't know outside of traditionalism why that would be a default for, well, this guy was our leader, so maybe his son would also be an effective leader. Mm. I don't see why that would be a default form of government. But no, I would argue it's more just based on a traditional nature. Ancient civilizations utilized monarchies. We still do even now, even though, in more places than not, it's more of a parliamentary monarchy, and the monarch is more or less just a figurehead than anything else. But
except in the Arabic countries. Yeah,
except in the Middle East and so on. But yeah, that's about all I can figure.
Personally, I have zero desire to ever have a king. And if we ever had one, I'd be the first person in line to get him out of power. Because no one man should ever have that much power. Never. There should always be checks and balances. Mm-hmm. That's the reason why our governmental system here in the United States is the greatest ever. As far as I'm concerned, successful monarchy is an oxymoron. Okay.
Yeah.
Viataf Ramen wants to know, I get a serious question I need advice on. How do I not get swept up in identity politics being pushed on me as a black man? Give him the finger. if people are trying to pressure you into any sort of identity politics, give them the finger.
Yeah.
If you have no desire to play them, if you want to be you, that's what I do. Because here's the funny thing: everybody gets pushed into them. You think that the alt-right hasn't tried to recruit me? Of course they have, and this is my answer to them every single freaking time. So that's basically the best answer. Is fuck you. I don't want your bullshit. I don't want your intersectionality. I don't want your conspiracy theories. I don't want to blame this guy or that guy or the Jews. I haven't even hit the button yet. I need to hit the button. Jew! But I don't want to blame somebody else for my problems. I want to fix this shit on my own. Mm-hmm. I want to be my own person. And this is just melanin, and beyond that, what does it matter? I want to be judged on the content of my character. Just lay that out plainly. Take a stand for that. Don't let yourself be moved by other people just because of their demands. That's my thoughts.
Yeah, basically, yeah, just don't let yourself be moved.
Koopa's Revenge Home wants to know, can something more be done about alcoholism than is currently done today? I really don't know.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think just in general, we need to change the way that we deal with addictions, because it's more psychological than anything else.
Yeah.
And I know, like, AA, for example, works for some people, and for others, it doesn't at all.
My thought has always been that it's kind of tied into generally our lack of tackling mental illness in the United States. Because there is a severe lack. I mean, mental health institutions will tell you that federal funding for research into psychology is anemic. And it's also the one field that is most moved by politics. So it's in a state where the scientists that are part of it don't have the funding to continue to do research, and they don't have the spine to stand up for the results of that research. Basically, we need more psychologists with balls.
Yeah, pretty much. And we need to start treating mental health as importantly as we treat physical health.
Yes. So, and then, yeah, addiction ties into that. Okay, entertainment questions now. Koopa's Revenge Home wants to know, are you too frustrated with Christmas creep as I am? It came before even Halloween this year. I fucking hate Christmas creep. I don't like Christmas.
Yeah. No, I don't either. And the main reason why is because of how our culture has basically propped it up as like the biggest thing, the greatest thing ever. And I think consumerism has basically ruined the entire purpose of Christmas.
Yeah, it is completely shadowed by this giant bulge of fucking materialism.
Yeah.
That we miss the point of the holiday.
Yeah.
And I hate it. I fucking hate it.
To be perfectly honest, like, how bad would it be if we just, like, took away Black Friday? If Black Friday just, poof, was not a fucking thing anymore, and the official start, quote-unquote, to the Christmas shopping season was December 1st. I would everything there.
I would honestly prefer that shops stop doing Black Friday sales except for online, straight from the warehouse. Mm-hmm. Like, do that instead, so that we don't have all these constant things of like these sales. It's like, plus we got Cyber Monday anyway. We're getting the same deals a few days later. Yeah,
I mean, it's that saying that goes around. Only in this country will we have a day where everything goes on sale and we just start buying up a storm the day after we say how much we're thankful for what we have.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's ridiculous. No, I can't stand Christmas creep.
No, it's ridiculous. It's not. And what kills me most about it is it's like It's also the one time per year that people go to church. And being the guy who studied Dietrich Bonhoeffer, which some people seem to forget that I did. I'm sorry. One thing we were talking about before this is how somebody patronized me over my young Earth creationism video when I've been studying theology for 20 years. But regardless, I think back to Bonhoeffer. I think back to the book, The Cost of Discipleship. I think back to this concept of the Sunday morning Christian, and it just drives me crazy because it seems like it's the one time of year that people acknowledge Jesus. Except Easter. That's the second time.
Easter and Christmas are the two times people go to church.
Yeah, and I hate it. I freaking hate it. We have lost sight of so much.
Mm-hmm.
And it drives me up the wall.
Mm-hmm. Can I say also how we as a culture have even changed the idea of like gift giving to the point where like if you don't have a gift to give somebody, that means you don't care about them, or if you don't get them enough or the right thing, that's a black mark on you.
Yeah. I'm very, very blessed to have a family that does not hold that against me if I don't have anything to bring for Christmas aside from just food.
Same.
Which they're just happy that I cooked because they love my cooking. But
it's funny. I tell everybody in my family, like, if they ever ask, what do you want for Christmas? I'm like, nothing. I don't care. That way, if they do decide to get me something, that's fine. I didn't ask, and therefore they have no reason that I would be reason to believe I'd be disappointed. And if they don't get me anything, well, that's exactly what I asked for. So
yeah,
there you go.
What I ask for every year is the same thing. I ask to basically for clothing. It's like I need a new pair of jeans. I need jeans. I need a new sweater, and socks and underwear.
There you go.
You want to give me anything else? Picks for my bass. That's it. Or new bass strings. So, but my family, I'm very blessed to have them because they, they're very accepting of the fact that I'm not really. I don't have that much in regards to finances. I'm eyeball deep in debt because of a marriage from 10 years ago. And I'm just now starting to get things paid off. So. All right. Oddly enough, though, I work for a company where I get a Christmas bonus this year, so I'll actually be able to get some gifts.
There you go.
All right. Crystal Wing wants to know, how do we think Stan Lee felt about the current situation at Marvel? I think he didn't want to be involved in the day-to-day for a reason.
Yeah. I think it's one of those things where it's hard to speak for the man, but I don't see myself really believing that he would agree with everything that was going on. Like, I keep thinking back to Secret Empire. How would he react to the knowledge that Captain America was a Nazi? Like, even if he was told, oh no, it's just a fake out. The real Captain America shows up later. This is a fake Captain America. Like, just him being like, but that would never ever happen in any alternate universe.
Yeah.
Like, Superman can have Red Sun, but we can never have a Nazi Captain America.
Pretty much.
But of course, I'm sure he probably kept his mouth shut because he also wanted to avoid any sort of backlash, especially in his twilight years.
Yeah. I can't imagine you would want to spend the last years on Earth with a bunch of fucking drama.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Holy Ninja Toe wants to know, what do we think Microsoft should do to regain the lead that they had last generation? Well, a big part of that was because at the time the Xbox 360 was the console for shooters. and this generation shooters have not been as big. And on top of that, they lost kind of the stronger elements of their lineup. They released 3 Gears of War games last generation. Looks like they're going to get maybe 2 this generation.
Yeah.
And that trilogy was a hot seller. Halo, they only had 1 Halo game this generation aside from Master Chief Collection, whereas the last one they had 3...
4.
Well,
Reach. Well, you want to count ODST too?
I was going to say 3.5.
Yeah.
Well, ODST is technically an expansion.
Well, Halo Wars.
I'm talking shooters.
Oh, just shooters? Okay.
Yeah. Because that was their big moneymaker on that console was shooters.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I don't know.
Halo. I don't know if I could count ODST as a half though, because
what's an expansion?
That whole thing. Well, that whole thing of charging $60 for it because they thought that it was a full game experience.
When it sure as shit was not. It was a fun game, but it sure as shit was not. But
I still think it had the best story of all of them.
I don't know about that, but that would be the big thing. Is it didn't really feel like that they had a direction in regards to where they wanted to go. Last year, last generation, that seemed to be the direction. It's like FPSs are hot. We're gonna keep them hot by making sure that that we can bring the best ones to our console, that we have the best online best online service, the easiest online service to get to access, so on and so forth. Because you have to keep in mind, there were more people playing Xbox Live last generation than PlayStation Network games when the PlayStation Network was fucking free.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it really didn't feel like they were offering anything different this time around. You know, that and the PlayStation Plus, they offer you the same thing. You get free games every month. You get to play video games online and other stuff and discounts. Like that's pretty much it. So, like there's nothing different being offered by that console except for the exclusives, and none of the exclusives were really that strong in comparison to the PlayStation, which had a lot of strong exclusives. Specifically, in my opinion, the strongest being God of War. So they're gonna have to kind of rethink their approach to what they're doing. They need the next Halo game to be huge. They need it to be amazing.
Yeah.
In my opinion, they need to hire a really good writer. My thought, like I said in the podcast, get J. Michael Straczynski to write it. And I think that you would have a much better story probably to wrap up Halo if this is what we're doing, is we're wrapping it up with 6. Other than that, I can't really think of much else. I mean, it's just you have to find something to set yourself apart. And I think that the Xbox One X is definitely like if you dig old Xbox games from the last 2 generations, it's the console to own, even though it's $500. But even then, it's not enough. That's not enough of a market to sell that. Much as I understand there's a lot of retro people on the internet, but most of them use emulators. They don't like using consoles unless they're collectors, and even that's an even like smaller amount. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'll admit, as somebody who does like collecting video games, I would, if I had the money, I would own an Xbox One X because it's fucking an awesome system. But I don't have that kind of money lying around, and it's not like a top priority for me. So, yeah, that's just kind of my thoughts on that. Hey, man, do you have anything to add on that one?
Aside from Game Pass is a really good selling point, and honestly, like ever since I got it, I'm like, this is great. That Game Pass honestly feels to me like the solution for what they should have started out with the Xbox One.
I would agree with
because
that.
everything was going to be diskless. You download all your games and you can play them wherever you want on anyone's console or whatever. Game Pass should have been that instead of, we're just going to have you download the game with your disc and then it'll be useless after that. Like, no, screw that. Game Pass honestly is where it's at. Even though I still buy disc-based games because maybe I'm a madman, or maybe I just prefer physical media over digital. I still say that's like one of the big selling points, and it should be a main selling point for the Xbox One, especially if this rumored discless version is actually coming out.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, Microsoft needs to keep on the up and up with Game Pass. Like, I get it, games with gold is good too, but you can't be screwing around with the Game Pass library either.
No, like and not to mention the fact that they're bringing so many of those games to PC.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
That's also a good one. That'll sell video games. And if they're getting back into publishing, which it looks like they're going to start focusing on again, that'll be a big moneymaker for them too, which is they never should have gotten out of. So, I honestly think that one of the biggest mistakes that Microsoft made was ever letting EA buy the Mass Effect franchise and buy BioWare out from under them. That I thought was stupid.
Yeah.
All right. Gojira wants to know, in the 50s, the trend was Westerns, then later it was action movies, now it's superheroes. There doesn't seem to be an incoming trend. What do you think the next one could be?
Dystopia.
Yeah, dystopia will probably be the next one. They're kind of trying to do it now, but they haven't really had a hit. You know, as much as Hollywood would like you to think The Handmaid's Tale is not as big of a hit as they like to present it as.
Hunger Games.
Yeah, well, you had Hunger Games, you had Maze Runner, and stuff like that, and
Maze Runner wasn't a huge hit though. Like, Hunger Games was definitely.
Aside from Hunger Games, there weren't many that were. That's what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah, but now
hold on, real quick. The reason for that is because superhero films were at the same time and they were much bigger.
Yeah, true. I think nowadays our culture is very, very cynical, especially this Trumpian age. You know, lots of people, you know, are certainly believing that we live in a dystopia as it is. So yeah. I think that'll be the big thing in storytelling.
I would think so too. It wouldn't surprise me if they start thinking that now's the time to option a Fallout movie, or something along those lines. Like it wouldn't surprise me if they would think that it would fit these days.
Yeah. It's just the cynicism of the age, and especially of the millennial generation as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely.
So.
Okay, another storytelling question. On the subject of storytelling, what do we think this idea of a story written around the theme of false heroes and media pundits who prop them up? You know, oddly enough, I don't think that's been done before.
This is a little bit up my alley, actually.
What do you got?
This is certainly a part of what I've been writing for the longest time. How the media impacts the main protagonist, really. It's the idea that they start to believe their own hype, or at least one of them does. At first, it's sort of I'm no hero. I'm just doing my job. You know, I'm doing something for the greater good that I was always intending on doing. I don't deserve thanks. I don't deserve praise. And over time, it becomes, yes, I am a hero. I am what this place needs. I am hope. You know, so I have to do better. You know, I have to be the decision maker, the leader. It's very you all right there? Okay. It's very it's very weird, because what I'm aiming for actually is for you to come to hate that hero anyway. You know, despite the fact that he's constantly propped up as a hero and a savior. And it's funny too, because eventually the people turn on him and realize, like, actually we've kind of been duped this whole time, haven't we?
So is the book called Acosta Man?
No.
Oh.
No, it's not. It's no. There's a bit of a relationship between this character and the media from the get-go, really. because someone that he was close to was a journalist, and her partner, he ends up like passing off some story-worthy documents to him, and that begets sort of a relationship like, hey, I can be your PR guy if you ever need somebody, that sort of idea. So there is a little bit of just corruption in there, but then also it's like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna believe everything that's told about me as well. I don't know if that's exactly an answer to your question there, but it's about as close as I can get because I'm sort of playing around with it.
All right, let's see what else we got here. Hellblazer wants to know, what are our thoughts on DC The New Frontier? Could it work well as a basis for a better DCEU? Should they reboot it, the DCEU? I don't think they should reboot the DCEU at this point. I think it would be a little silly.
So what is The New Frontier?
The New Frontier was basically sort of it was a limited series. It was kind of like a callback to the Golden Age.
Okay.
I've never read it. I only know about it. But it's kind of reminiscent of the first arc of Justice League, the series, but with like a 50s and 60s vibe to it, in like broad strokes. So, like I said, I've never read it. I only can kind of give you the broad bits. I would not want to see that as a basis for the modern day. I'm not that big of a fan of Golden Age sort of looks, because that time has long passed, and most of the people who have like legit memories about that are either dying or dead. And I don't think that it would really lend itself to anything. I don't think that many people would really be into it. And this is the business me talking. Like I'm sure that some people would that there would be people who enjoy sort of the old timey vibe. I'm not one of them. But I don't think like the modern take is that necessarily good either. I think that these heroes should be taken more at face value and have fun with them. I think that's part of the reason why I think Aquaman looks so good. Is it's actually going to have fun with the story.
Yeah.
And it's letting Jason Momoa be Jason Momoa in that role like he was in Justice League. Because he was one of the few good things about that movie. But no, I don't think that the DCEU should be rebooted. I think that they need to stop taking all their fucking cues from the New 52. Let's make everything dark and edgy,
yeah,
man.
Well,
fuck that.
That's the thing. Like, well, The Dark Knight did so well, and I think that was the biggest influence for the DCEU.
Well, there's definitely influence there, but they completely missed the fucking point.
Yeah, well, that and also Batman makes sense as a darker and grittier film.
Mm-hmm.
Superman, like, I can sort of see it, but like everything else, Justice League, no, why? No, that doesn't make any sense. And yeah, that's part of the reason also why I'm kind of stoked for Aquaman, because it looks
fun,
colorful, it looks good, decent. Like
Mara's fucking hot. It's awesome.
Yes, like honestly,
Black Manta looks stupid, but
honestly, I don't even like the idea that everything has to tie back to something in the DCEU. Like, I wish they would just focus on character movies first, and then, like, if they all have to come together for some event, okay, they can come together, but otherwise, keep everything separate for the most part. Like, you don't have to connect everything as much as Marvel does, where you have to have like a 10-year plan going forward, different phases of the story that you want to tell. Like, just go forward with it. Like, that's exactly what DC has done for ages. They didn't depend on so many crossovers and everything.
Well, not to mention,
at least not until fucking Crisis. Jesus.
Not to mention the big issue that I have is like the casting was weak.
Mm-hmm.
Weak as hell. Whoever the casting director for the DCEU has been, they should have been fired ages ago.
Well, I don't
Well,
know. They got Gal Gadot right.
Well, they got Gal Gadot right, and they got Jason Momoa right.
Yep.
And
I remember being so skeptical about Gal Gadot too.
Henry Cavill was pretty good as Superman, but he's gone now.
Mm-hmm.
So, but not to mention just the roster that they picked for the Justice League was dumb. Cyborg?
Again, why wouldn't you put Green Lantern in there?
Exactly!
Like, that doesn't make any sense. I mean, hell, I would.
And why?
I would
Why
even
is Flash not acting like Flash, like Barry Allen?
Because he's not.
It wasn't Barry Allen. It wasn't even close to Barry.
No.
Barry is a square-jawed All-American.
Mm-hmm.
Both he and Hal are. That's why they get along so well.
Mm-hmm.
Barry's the optimist. Hal is the realist. But they're both square-jawed American boys.
I'm about to say, even if you want like a cynical character, throw Green Arrow in there, for God's sake.
Yeah, exactly.
Even he would be better.
Ezra Klein would have been a better, like, Kyle Rayner.
You
know, like, it makes no sense to me. You know, again, my thought is that, and that's they rushed Justice League anyway.
Well, yeah, of course they did.
It feels like between, Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, there's a lot we're missing that could have been tied together. But even then, like, the movie is shit compared to, well, it's shit anyway, but it's really shit compared to World's Finest.
Mm.
And if you folks have not seen World's Finest, your ass needs to see some World's Finest. That is an awesome two-parter for Superman the Animated Series.
That's the thing. I think that's what Batman v Superman should have been anyway.
Yeah.
That should have been World's Finest, not not a face-off movie, not like a Civil War type movie, which is exactly what they were fucking going for.
Oh yeah. And it was absolutely idiotic. Dumbest Batman on film ever. Great taste in suits, don't get me wrong. Like whoever the fashion pick for Ben Affleck's suits were for that film was great. They had awesome taste. But dear God. Now I will say I did like Jeremy Irons as Alfred. But yeah, like no Hal Jordan. Not even Guy fucking Gardner. You know, it's like Cyborg is boring. And he's a Teen Titan anyway. Mm-hmm. I've always felt like getting him into the Justice League is super forced. But it's like, I think to myself, it's like, who would I like if I was going to have a Justice League? Like the roster from the series would have been fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're going to have invaders, then it gives you a reason to bring in the Martian Manhunter. You could do the White Martians. That's a fun story, oddly enough, written by... No, wait, was that Grant Morrison or was that Mark Waid? I don't remember.
I want to say it was Grant Morrison.
I want to say it was Grant Morrison too, but I think Mark might have done something with the White Martians too. But yeah, you could do the White Martian story instead of forcing Apocalypse and trying to nod towards Darkseid. Which, by the way, giant CG Steppenwolf that looked like shit.
Why'd they even go for Steppenwolf anyway?
I don't know. Why didn't you go with Calabac?
Because they're stupid.
Very. Steppenwolf is like an F-list villain.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, what I would do from here is I would honestly, focus on these movies about assembling other heroes and then maybe return to the Justice League years down the road when you're going to have to recast Superman and you've recast Batman too. And don't force the fucking the Legion of Doom either.
No, don't do the damn
Stop
Legion
fucking
of Doom.
no. It's
no, for God's sake.
No, it's so like Jesse Eisenberg is shit as Lex Luthor anyway.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to another question. Okay, Hardboiled Entertainment wants to know, so it's possible that Henry Cavill wearing a wig and being clean-shaven could mean that he ain't done as Superman at all? Ezra Miller just said not to believe those reports. I think he could do both. But I wouldn't say that Geralt was clean shaven for most of the Witcher series. Mm-hmm. He looks better with a beard as a character. He looks kind of like a Ponce without it. So
I think he's done as Superman,
and I can't blame him.
I think he's done for one reason. They're trying to cast a new James Bond.
That's possible too, and he would be a good pick.
Yep.
That'd be a scary looking James Bond because he's a huge guy.
Oh yeah.
He's like what? He's as tall as I am, isn't he? He's like 6'2".
I think so.
Yeah,
I think
6'2",
so. Yeah.
And he's buff. And he reloads his arms in Mission Impossible. But anyway, no, I don't think that that's an indication. I would like to see him return as Superman. I liked him as Superman quite a bit, but I don't see it happening. I
don't either.
Like I said, I want Batman recast. Either bring back Christian Bale, or find somebody who can play that role a lot better. That would be the one thing in the DCEU I would just retcon would be Batman v Superman. I would retcon that. Well, I would retcon that in Justice League and just pretend it never happened.
I'd say just do Flashpoint and reset everything.
No, that would really convolute things for the audience too. I would just don't acknowledge it like they don't acknowledge Superman Returns. Which in and of itself did not acknowledge Superman 3 and 4. So. But yeah, I think he's done as Superman. Oh, we can finish this one with some anime titties. Jackman Inman wants to know, what do you think of Sony screwing with Japanese developers by censoring their games and forcing them to translate from Japanese to English? Well, I find that weird because so many Japanese games usually have an English text subtitle option anyway. Second, what the hell does it matter if there's nudity in the game as long as it's M-rated?
It's not even nudity. It's just fan service.
Huh?
It's not. I'm serious. It's not even nudity.
I'm pretty sure there's blatant sex scenes in Red Dead Redemption.
No, we're talking like what's being censored is basically just like girls in bikinis.
What?
I'm dead fucking serious. Girls in bikinis and underwear and like panty shots and stuff like that. Fan service.
Is Nick Fuentes the head of Sony now? What the fuck is this?
No, I think what's happening is Sony is basically trying to come out ahead of the inevitable game journos. This game is sexist. We demand answers from whoever about why this game is so horribly sexist and whatnot. And they're catering to that sort of mindset, and it's going to backfire on them, as it is backfiring on them.
Yeah, look, I'm not big into the whole anime titties thing, but I don't care if people are. And beyond that, I really don't see a need to feel like I need to get ahead of, like I would have to get ahead of the game journalists. It's about businesses are about servicing the customer within, it's like it's not porn, they're not asking for porn. Not that you can't browse porn on your freaking PlayStation 4 anyway, because you can.
It's a PR move at the end of the day.
And it's a bad one.
That's exactly what it is. It's absolutely a bad one, but
because the PC market's just going to pick up on it.
This is just a hypothesis because they haven't announced why they're doing this. At least to my knowledge, they have not. But I think this is what's happening. It sort of relates back to why Dead or Alive Extreme 3, they would not localize that for Western markets. It's because of the culture. And honestly, I think it's pants on head retarded.
Oh yeah. I really feel like we have seen such a weird resurgence in Puritanism.
From the left, not the right. Like everyone thought it was going to be the religious right, the hyper evangelicals that were going to do it. But no, now it's coming from the left, and I find it absolutely hilarious that the left has more in common with Sharia law than pretty much anything else nowadays.
Well,
it is insane.
I think of it like this: is the there is just this assumption that something bad is going to happen to our society because of women in bikinis or things along those lines. I don't really think that's the case. It's more or less just a discipline thing when it comes to society. We live in a society that is less disciplined, and we are unwilling to teach ourselves discipline.
Well, it's the same argument from way back when they wanted to ban M-rated games and whatnot, the whole Jack Thompson era.
Yeah.
It's like what we're seeing is a failure for people to take responsibility for themselves and their children.
Yeah, like I've had people argue to me, like, and I'll be honest, who suffer from like pornography addiction, and they go, well, there's tempting hot women everywhere. Like, yeah, and you can move your eyes. I don't want to fucking hear it.
If your eye causes you to sin, gouge it out.
You know, I think of it like myself. It's like, I had a friend of mine say, like, in your comic books, I hope that you don't over-sexualize women. And I'm like, if I have attractive women in my comic books, I'm going to portray them as attractive. You don't have to buy it. I want you to buy it. I want you to read it. And I want you to have some self-discipline because you're married. I'm like, the presence of a good-looking woman in the room should not cause you to immediately sin. If that is the case, you have the problem. It's not her fault. You know, I find it preposterous. Why am I sounding like a feminist now from like 20 years ago? I don't want to. Because by all means, I am a person who thinks that monogamy is good, that it is good to be respectful to women, and it's good to not objectify people in general. But dear God, man, like, don't start getting mad at the chick on Instagram who's got 100,000 followers because she's got nice boobs and is always in bikinis. Don't get mad at her. You don't have to look at her. But I can't stop myself. Start, pussy.
It's not difficult to just not click on something.
Yeah, and if it is so bad, and you are suffering so much, disconnect your internet.
Yeah.
Don't have internet anymore. Don't have a smartphone. Roll back your technology in your home by 20 years. You can do it. I've actually seen people who have had so many bad problems with it that they did it. And it's worked well for them, and it's actually improved their lives.
Have a friend put a filter on your internet and lock it out with a password that you won't be able to guess.
Yeah.
Do something like that. I've known people who've done that.
So do I.
I get, God, an accountability partner. Good God, that was something that was promoted.
This is where churches come in. That's the funny thing. It goes back to what we started talking about. Is because people have disconnected themselves from church, from God, from Christianity, and Judeo-Christian principle, we find ourselves in a position where, you know, we have caused our own society to be the way it is, and then we blame society for it. It's our own fucking fault. And it's time for us men to be men, and to stand up, and to take care of ourselves, and to be better than what we are. Because that's what God calls you to do. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. That's a lot to ask of someone, and it needs to be done regardless. Why do I always end up preaching?
Because you're the son of a preacher, man.
I'm a sweet-talking one, if nothing else. All right, folks. We are going to go ahead and take off. That was the last question that we had. Don't forget, we will still be having a podcast this coming Saturday, provided that all of the, whatever the fuck the chemical is in the turkey that makes you sleep, hopefully it'll have worn itself out.
Melatonin.
Is it melatonin that's in turkey?
I believe it is.
I don't think it's melatonin.
Biologists of our channel, please find out.
let me find out. Tryptophan.
Tryptophan.
Yes, it's tryptophan.
That's definitely not melatonin.
No. Makes me wonder what they're sneaking in your turkey, Hatman.
Probably melatonin.
But folks, we do appreciate you again, or once again. Don't forget, we'll be back this weekend for the Overflow. I will probably have a game night stream when I get back from holiday on Friday night as well. So until that point, though, we're going to take off. My name is Micah Curtis.
And I'm Alex Baldwin, also known as the Hat Man.
We'll see you guys very soon. Deus Volt.
Deus Volt.